Hi, I'm Eddie Kramer, and you're watching Burl TV. What you know, mate? The actual first time that the Burl Mothership was used in a recording studio was, I was up in San Francisco mixing at, I think, Hyde Street Studios, if I'm not mistaken, and we were doing Winterland, Jimi Hendrix's performance of Winterland. It was kind of appropriate that we were in San Francisco. We're using the Burl, which is a San Francisco, basically a Bay Area piece of gear, and we're doing Winterland, that historic performance. Now, the guys, meaning Rich and Will and the whole crew, of course, had developed it in their studio and finished the initial box, but it had only been used in their studio, it had never come out. So I think Will called me up and said, hey, listen, we got this thing done, can we bring it in? I said, sure, let's try it out, let's see what happens. And it was great. It was the first time that I had actually heard that Mothership do its thing. Been a fan ever since. What I have worked on over the last 10 years probably is to figure out a way to combine the very best of analog and the very best of digital to capture what Jimi had intended and try to make it just this much better. If I could give it that much more presence, clarity, still maintaining the integrity and the original intent of what he was playing, I think I'm doing his memory a service, and I think, as I said before, the fans and critics like it. Now we've transferred it through the Burl. It sounds great. It sounds just like the tape. Well, certainly it's the closest thing to tape that I've ever heard. Then the process is 2496 from Pro Tools through an analog console, and this is a really cool vintage API board, plus all the other stuff that we use, you know, Pultecs and Neve limiters and Neve EQs, all of that combined, plus the stuff that's in the box. We use a lot of plugins as well, some of the Waves plugins, et cetera, So we are now taking a vintage piece of material and treating it as a contemporary piece of music and make it just stand out. So that process is from a Burl A to D converter into Pro Tools, out of Pro Tools, into the analog board, out of this board, into a stereo equalizer tube through a limiter, and then out of that into half-inch tape with Dolby SR. Then we have a half-inch 15 IPS master, which then gets played back through the Burl B80 Bomber back into Pro Tools. Now this is where it gets really interesting, is that quite often I find that the Burl B2B Bomber from tape is actually giving it some extra stuff, top end, bottom end, and it just seriously kicks butt. There's an underlying thing here, and that is Burl makes the bloody difference, and I keep stressing that wherever I go, whether I'm at Abbey Road in London, whether I'm in La Fabrique in France, and whichever studio I go to, and whoever I'm talking to in whatever studio, I say, guys, have you ever tried the Burl? Come on now.
Thank you very much. How about Jack Cassidy, Noel Redding, and Mitchell Mitchell? Thank you.